Uh-oh.
Welcome to the Health Detective Podcast with... I think he's trying to call us, too. Hi, Facebook. Hi, everybody. We're trying to get Roberto on the line here.
Going to start the Health Detective Podcast, but the first case we have to crack is, where is Roberto, the health detective?
I tell you what he's doing. He's detecting some health, and he's doing it real good. How are you, Chris? Speaking of health, how are you, Chris?
Hey, I'm good, man. Monday, fun day. Finally got that weekend over.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I could get back. Were you back to work today?
Back to it.
All right. How'd that feel? Good?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Hi, Roberto. You're just in time.
Yeah, I know. My
Roberto
computer
Parker.
said. So we'll do it over the phone.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Welcome to the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. Join strength and conditioning expert Roberto Parker as he shares his over 35 years of experience in training athletes and helping people achieve their fitness goals. Now here's your moderator, Chris Whiting, with Coach Roberto.
Hey, everyone. Welcome once again to the Health Detective Podcast. I am your moderator, Chris Whiting. Another exciting episode. Now, those of you watching on Facebook may be saying to yourselves, I see Chris live, but I don't see Roberto. Well, we don't have video of Roberto due to a technical glitch. But Roberto, tell me you're there. Please, are you here?
I am ever present, Chris.
Yes! All right. We've solved the case of the missing Roberto. He is here. Always look forward to this podcast. And, you know, for folks new to it, Roberto has decades involved in strength conditioning and health and nutrition. And so on this podcast, sometimes we talk about exercise, sometimes we talk about healthy habits. Tonight, I believe we're going to focus primarily on nutrition and maybe some fat burning foods you can eat. And the question, Roberto, you told me that you wanted to explore, so maybe we'll start off with this one, is breakfast, as some people say, the most important meal of the day?
Yes and no.
Oh, boy.
Here's the thing. We've talked about this many times in the past. Everybody has their own biochemical makeup and individuality. There are some people who need breakfast every morning in order to survive, pretty much, almost. I mean, not literally, but, you know, they have energy to get out the door. There are some people who don't need breakfast. I'm one of those people. I don't need breakfast to sustain me through the early parts of the day. I don't particularly need it. Now, I know some people, if they don't have breakfast, that, you know, they act like they're going to pass out and die practically, but not necessarily. Yet you got to get it down to the nitty-gritty of how the person is designed. And the way I do it, there's a way we can evaluate your circadian rhythm. You probably have heard of that, right?
I sure have.
Okay, well, a circadian rhythm is just an internal process that regulates your sleep cycle. And normally, in fact, not normally, it is very much related to the sun. When the sun goes up, cortisol goes up, adrenaline goes up. When the sun goes down, you have the reverse effect. Now, there are some people whose circadian rhythm is a little bit different than others. So it all revolves around that and also the amount of insulin. And so there has been studies done on people, and there are some studies that show that some people need breakfast in order to keep their insulin more stable, in order to have energy through the morning, in order to keep food cravings down. Whereas there are others that, like myself, because I've kind of trained my body to do more intermittent fasting, so breakfast is not that big a deal to me. That doesn't mean I can't have breakfast food for lunch or something, but I don't really have to get up first thing in the morning and have breakfast because I've trained my body to where I'm what you call fat adapted, where I keep my insulin fairly low and my ketone levels fairly high, meaning it sustains me throughout the day. That really is the key right there, is how your insulin, your ketone levels, and your circadian rhythm all play into the biochemistry of things.
Did you say that you're fat adaptive?
Fat adapted, means that you can go a long time without eating, and it kind of relates back to to ketosis and the ketone way of eating, the keto diet. I don't really do keto necessarily, but I eat a lot of protein food, a lot of fat food, and a lot of fiber. And by doing that, you can keep your blood sugars more stabilized to where you don't get extremely hungry and have food cravings. So a person who is more along the lines of being fat adapted, they don't necessarily have to have breakfast first thing in the morning. They might do their intermittent fast until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That might be their first meal of the day.
Wow.
I was watching a video today by a guy on Joe Rogan's podcast. He's I forget his name now, but he's a guy that does a lot with the anti-aging studies. And his body is such that he eats mainly after 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's his first meal of the day. And he's more of a nighttime eater. Now, he doesn't eat a lot of junk, but I don't know what time he goes to bed, but he mainly eats during the evening. And, the guy's pretty healthy. So,
wow.
Once again, it all depends on the person.
Well, so that was going to be one of my questions, because when I was a kid, I remember people telling us, eat breakfast like a king and lunch like a prince and dinner like a pauper or something like that, which I think we can safely say throwing a one-fits-all approach like that on everyone is in direct contrast to what this podcast teaches. But then the other thing, go ahead.
When I first started doing functional nutrition, before I started doing it, I should say, I was more of a calorie in, burn calorie out type of person. I believe, I was one of those believers. I believe you should eat breakfast, you should have a lunch, and you should have a dinner. Well, after doing a lot of research and reading a lot of articles and researching people who know a lot more about biochemistry than I do, that's not necessarily the case. You don't really have to have a breakfast to get yourself going in the morning. I have never been one to being able to eat a huge breakfast first thing in the morning. I remember coming up as a kid, some of my family members would have steak and eggs for breakfast. I've never, ever had steak and eggs for breakfast, because that's, for me, that's never. I never have. Now, I've had steak and eggs for lunch or dinner, but not breakfast. Because when I get up in the morning, I'm just not that hungry, to be honest with you. I've never been a huge breakfast person. So that doesn't mean that doesn't apply to everybody. Like I said, it all depends on your biochemical makeup. And there's pros and cons. And look, like I said, there have been studies on it where they found that people who eat breakfast can reduce food cravings. But then again, on the other hand, they have found that people who intermittent fast till about noon or later also reduce food cravings. So that just tells me it depends on the person.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I've been trying the intermittent fasting thing, like trying to eat within an 8-hour window. So I won't eat until noon at the earliest, and then I stop everything by 8 o'clock. I feel better doing that. I don't know, if that would work for everyone, but it makes me feel better. Sometimes if I eat breakfast, I feel weighed down. Yeah.
Well, it also depends on the quantity that you're eating, what you're eating. I mean, if you have let's say for breakfast you have a scoop of yogurt or something like that. There's some people that may not affect them. Some people it might drag them down. There's some people, because of the way they're designed, if they have something, let's say like a baked potato and eggs in the morning, because the potato has a lot of carbs in it, it drops it elevates their blood sugar, but it drops it rapidly. So therefore, they're not going to have a lot of energy going into the early afternoon part of the day. Like they might want to take a nap around 12 o'clock or something.
Yeah.
There are other people who can do that. You know, there's some people, for example, who can have just a piece of sausage and a cup of coffee in the morning, and they're good to go. That's all they need. They're good to go, you know?
So this really comes back to listening to your body.
Or, you know, I've just taken coconut oil in the morning sometimes before I go out the door, and it suits me just fine. But like I said, it doesn't work for everybody. It all depends on what your makeup is, and we have to do some sort of an assessment on you to find out exactly where you are, if you want to really get real specific as to where you are, because the sun has a lot to do with it too, because there are some people who are more morning people, and there's some people who are more evening people. I have found that people who are more morning people tend to need breakfast in the morning. People who are more late afternoon, evening people can usually go without breakfast in the morning.
Interesting. Wow. So you talked about, you know, you might want to get an assessment done. And I know you do those, but you might tell people just what that typically involves if they're interested in that.
There's a couple ways you can do it. We can do it more qualitatively or more quantitatively. The more qualitative it is, it's going to involve doing more blood work, taking some urine samples and that kind of thing, saliva to see where your cortisol levels are. If you just want to save some money, and we can do it via some questionnaires, ask some lifestyle type of questionnaires. We can go back to the old SMEC acronym like we talked about in previous podcasts, you know, sleep, mood, energy, food cravings, hunger. If all the things are lining up just right, then keep doing what you've been doing. Don't change what you've been doing. So if you eat breakfast in the morning, keep eating breakfast in the morning. If you don't eat breakfast in the morning and your SMEC is in check, don't eat breakfast in the morning. So, but if some of the things start getting out of balance, we need to, okay, let's evaluate. Maybe you're going to bed too late. Maybe you're eating too much food before you go to bed. Maybe you don't eat enough of a snack before you go to bed. You know what I mean? Maybe you're working out too late in the day. That affects your blood sugar as well. Maybe you're not working out enough. Maybe you're working out too much. Follow me? Maybe you're not drinking enough water. Maybe you're drinking too much alcohol before you go to bed. All these things are factors in and will affect your circadian rhythm. Getting back to that circadian rhythm we talked about, because circadian rhythm directly affects your appetite and when you want to eat.
Right. And folks, if you have a question, if you're watching on Facebook, you can give us a call and talk to Coach Roberto live at 913-735-0060. That's 913-735-0060. We've been talking about circadian rhythms, when it makes sense to eat for different people, and then sort of how you can determine what's going to work best for your body. I know too, Roberto, you had said you wanted to talk a little bit about fat burning foods, and I have a feeling this is going to be something that a lot of folks are interested in.
Well, let me kind of segue into that by saying this. By skipping meals and intermittent fasting, if you fast every day for more than basically 18 hours, the body will clean itself out. It's like cleaning out your old bedroom closet, cleaning up your bathroom. It's called autophagy, okay? A-U-T-O, autophagy, P-H-A-G-Y, okay? That will help to clean out. That will help to clean out a lot of the dead cellular tissues in the body. But you must fast for at least 18 hours, and I do it usually one day a week. I have a 1 day a week. I do a long, semi-long, intermittent type of fast. I'll go for about 20, 22 hours. But
smokes.
Now, let me explain that, but because intermittent fasting, in conjunction with fat-burning foods, can help you burn more fat and help you increase your metabolism and help stabilize your insulin and your blood sugars and that kind of thing. And the foods are apple cider vinegar. That's one of them. Bone broth, cayenne pepper on food, not taken by itself. Chia seeds, coconut oil, and cruciferous vegetables. Now, cruciferous vegetables are things like broccoli, cauliflower, those sort of things. So that's more cruciferous type of vegetables. Now, the reason these foods are good for fat burning is, first of all, some of them have a lot of fiber, particularly cruciferous vegetables. They have a lot of fiber. And because they have a lot of fiber, that can help sustain you because fiber helps to reduce food cravings. Some of these foods have more protein, like things like bone broth and chicken. Okay, those foods have more protein in it. Protein has what we call satiety value. Satiety value means that, once again, it fills you up and you don't have the desire to eat as much in between meals. So those are good fat-burning type of foods in conjunction with, once again, some good intermittent fasting. You could do intermittent fasting every day for that matter. You could have, like you're doing, you just eat within a 6 to 8 hour window every day. That's good. And once in a while, I would recommend doing what we call a long-term fast, where you fast for at least 24 hours or longer.
Wow. Okay.
Don't do it, every day, because otherwise that's starvation. It's not the purpose of fasting. Is to starve yourself. The purpose of fasting is to cleanse your body. Getting back to that autophagy, that's a cleansing of like a cathartic type of state that you put your body into, and that's necessary to clean out those dead cells in the body and to realign your metabolism.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. I'm going to start incorporating that. I got a question on that list of foods too. The first one you said was apple cider vinegar. I hear it mentioned a lot in health-related articles, typically more from a holistic health side of things. How do you use apple cider vinegar? What are the benefits, and why does it work?
Well, first of all, you have to buy the right type of apple cider vinegar. The best type to get is the apple cider vinegar with the mother at the bottom, the pulpy stuff you see on the bottom of that. Because it has
the cloudy, fibrous looking stuff there.
Yeah. So it has a lot of good fiber in it. It helps to stabilize your blood sugars and your insulin. What you don't want to do is take it concentrated, because it'll really burn like hell going down your throat, and it's really not good for the enamel of your teeth. So you want to dilute it down with some lemon juice or some water, or, for that matter, any type of juice, really, for that matter. But in fact, if you see some of the stuff that's sold on television, it's becoming rather popular. I don't know the quality of some of the stuff they're talking about on TV, but I do see some stuff on the shelves at the store, at the health food stores. They have these different type of beverages now with apple cider vinegar in it. So I think the best way to take it basically is with a little bit of water, because sometimes you got to be careful what you're buying at the store, because they put all kinds of other stuff in there to make it taste better, and sometimes those things aren't the best for your body. So, but yeah, apple cider vinegar helps to stabilize your blood sugar, your insulin, and supposedly it helps to boost your metabolism, because what it does, it has a thermogenic effect. Thermogenic meaning that it elevates your core temperature. So, when your metabolism is revving faster, your core temperature goes up. It's like working out.
Okay. Wow. Do you think there's a particular time that's better with like an apple cider vinegar? Would you say that's more of a morning thing or an evening thing, or does it matter?
It could be in the morning. Once again, it goes back to how it makes you feel. You can also take it with meals, because Apple cider vinegar helps to stimulate HCl in the gut, which is the acid portion of your stomach that helps to break down foods and kill pathogens in the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
If you recall, when we did your lab work, I think your HCl was a little bit low. If I
believe it was.
And that happens as we get older. Your HCl level goes down because that also directly affects digestion, because that's why kids can normally eat more food and it doesn't really affect them. Whereas when you get older, your appetite probably isn't as good as it was when you were younger, because when you're younger, HCl is more elevated, and you get older, it starts to depress, and you just can't eat the amount of food that you used to eat without feeling overly bloated. So, but that'll help reduce some of the bloat, particularly if you're going to eat a real big meal, stuff, things like a lot of meat, sometimes harder to break down by the body if your digestion isn't very good. If your HCl levels are really low, meat is really hard to process and to break down in the small intestines of the body. But what apple cider vinegar does, it has a lot of good benefits. And you can do something. You can even wash your hair with apple cider vinegar. Some people put it on their skin. Some people use it, to clean their homes with. There's a lot of good benefits to vinegar because it's such a natural, organic, from good old Mother Earth type of food product.
Gotcha. So I have a nutrition question for you. It's a personal question, but I think people will benefit from hearing your thoughts. So my wife, Jane, has been doing some online research and has decided it would be good for us to try to go more plant-based. That's not saying we're giving up all meat forever, but she thinks for our gut health and other health, going more plant-based with healthy plant-based foods is going to be a good thing for us to try. So I am curious, really curious about your opinion on that.
I'm not opposed to plant-based. I am not a big fan of vegetarianism or veganism. Now, that's probably going to tick a few people off out there that listen to this, but I'm sorry, but that's just how I feel professionally. I believe that we are not meant to be strictly carnivores. We are not meant to be strictly vegetarians, herbivores. We are somewhere in the middle. Now, that somewhere in the middle is going to vary from person to person, because there are some people who can tolerate more meat versus others. And there's some people who can tolerate more plant-based versus others. It also depends what you're doing in your lifestyle. If you're out there tearing down a lot of muscle, if you have a heavy, laborious type of job, let's say working construction, doing some farm work, maybe chopping down trees every day with an axe, if you're a high elite professional athlete or college or high school athlete, you're working out 2 hours a day, I suggest you consume more animal-based foods because you're tearing down muscle, because animal-based foods have all the amino acids that you need, whereas plant-based foods don't have that. You have to eat so many different types of plant foods to hit all the basic essential amino acids, and I believe there's about 8 or 9 of them, okay? With animal-based, typically you can get more bang for your buck with each serving.
And is that true with red meat, poultry, pork, all of them, all the meats?
Pardon?
Is that true with red meat, poultry, pork, all the different types of meat?
Fish is probably the best in terms of fat protein. Iron-wise, beef is probably, dark meat is better in terms of iron. And that's another thing to talk about. Just be careful with women, with your wife, because a lot of women are low in iron sometimes. So if you're going to go with a plant-based type of eating plan, you got to be real careful of that, because plants don't have iron in them. You're going to have to take some sort of separate source. That's if you're strictly all plant-based. Now, I guess in your case, you're going to supplement some meat, so that's good. So I would recommend for iron, you'll need a little bit of dark meat, so maybe stuff like dark turkey or dark chicken or whatever like that. Some people I know that they eat meat, but they won't eat beef, or they won't eat pork, or they won't eat chicken, but they eat fish. Okay, that's cool. I mean, that's fine. I can dig that. But if you're, I personally do eat beef. I like beef. I could probably eat a steak every night. To be honest with you,
I could too.
That's me, and it all goes back to what I talked about before: is your smack and check. Is it affecting your sleep, your mood, your energy, your food cravings, and your hunger? Now, if you want to go beyond that, you can check your blood sugar. We can check your insulin. And then we can check your PSA for prostate. Because I know that my brother, who lives in California, he won't eat red meat anymore because he's already had his prostate removed. And he's afraid that, if he starts eating red meat, he's going to get a reoccurrence of cancer. So, that's fine. But I do recommend to him that he at least eat, good, healthy fish out of the ocean, salmon or sardines or something like that, because fish is probably the best in terms of meats you can eat. Now, there's only one problem with fish out of the ocean. I think you know where I'm going to go with this. It's called mercury.
I knew it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, so you got to be careful how often you eat that, right?
Because they put so much crap in the ocean, and there's certain types of fish that are more prone to it than others. Even if it says wild caught, doesn't mean that it, wasn't exposed to some mercury. So, I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard. It's very, very hard to eat healthy because we have so many environmental toxins around us. Stuff you put in the ocean, stuff you put in the ground, stuff you put in the air, stuff you put in the water. It's very, very hard, but you just, you do the best you can.
Yeah. So we've talked about timing of food, basically. We started out with, breakfast is the most important meal. Really went into, timing of when you eat, which is sort of an individual thing based on your body and how it responds. And then also the types of food that you eat, which sound very similar. Like you need to know what works well with your body and what you need and how you respond. So it's fascinating. It really comes back again to these old things that we heard, such as eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. The one size fits all just doesn't apply because we're all so unique in our makeup.
No, it does not. And I know that I trained Chris. Hello?
Chris?
Yeah, I'm there. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm getting a call in, but I don't want to answer it.
Thanks.
It just all goes back to how you feel, how far you want to take it, how deep you want to go in terms of let's analyze your blood, let's analyze your saliva, what your cortisol is doing, what your adrenaline is doing, what your testosterone is doing, what your estrogen is doing, what your insulin is doing. It all goes back to that. It really does. Now, like I said, you have to judge how you feel too, because if you're eating foods that makes you feel like crap all the time, then something is not right. You need to eliminate something or modify something. Now, there's this diet, and I'm not a big proponent of diet. It's called the rotating diet. And what the rotating diet is, I somewhat agree with it, is that about every 2 or 3 days, you change up what you're eating. So you don't eat the same thing for more than 2, maybe 3 days in a row.
Interesting.
Now, why is that? Because what happens is that if you're eating the same thing, eating for probably more than 2 days in a row, your body becomes adapted to that, and not in a good way, where your body can start developing allergies and sensitivities to what you're eating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, for example, there's a guy that, a gentleman, he owns a company where I used to do some lab testing through. I listened to one of his tapes. He lived in Florida for years, and he said he would eat oranges every single day. And eventually, he couldn't eat oranges anymore because they were making him sick.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, weren't because you could do it initially because it wasn't affecting his butt, but he developed an allergy or some sort of sensitivity, which sensitivity is really like it's just an allergy light. He developed sensitivity to eating oranges because he needed to get off oranges for a few months in order to start reintroducing oranges because oranges were making him sick.
That's interesting to me. I read an article a few years ago about a guy that lost a ton of weight by only eating baked beans.
Yeah.
I thought, A, he could not have been fun to be around, and B, it can't be healthy to just do one food like that, right?
Yeah. I don't agree with doing something like that. I mean, I remember the old guy from Subway Sandwich that ate Subways for, 2 years in a row and lost all that weight. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't really agree with that, but that's taking it a little bit to the extreme, I believe, and most people really aren't going to do that anyway because they don't have the discipline to eat the same thing every day like that in the first place. So you got to be a little realistic with people and how I counsel them and work with them.
Yeah.
Because most people just aren't going to eat the same thing every single day, just one meal like that. But what you should do as much as you can. Here's the bottom line. If you want to really eat healthy, number one, get off of processed industrialized foods. Number one, that's it.
Got it. Check.
It's processed at a manufacturing food plant. Don't eat it. At least don't eat it very often. That's number one. Number two is start eating better proteins and fiber in your eating plan because protein and fiber will help to fill you up where you don't have to eat as often and you will reduce food cravings. Number three, as you get older, cut back the amount of serving size that you're eating at one time. Because that, I don't care if you're eating extremely healthy. If you're overeating, it's not good. I don't give a damn how healthy it is. You got to cut back on the serving size.
You know what's funny about that? It used to be, back when I was a very young person, the first thing they would say is serving size. It's all about the calories, you know? And now that's number 3 on your list after the processed foods and the fiber and protein. So I think it's just interesting how our knowledge has increased and we better understand how to utilize food the best we can.
Calories is part of the equation. I would probably label that, number 4 possibly, but it's part of the equation. But you want foods that are nutritionally dense. That's why you want to get off of processed foods. Processed foods are not as nutritionally dense as whole organic foods. You take eating a bag of chips, potato chips. Yeah, they'll fill you up. If you eat a whole big super-sized bag of potato chips, they'll fill you up. But what are you eating? Potatoes, yeah. It's been cooked in Lord knows what, all kinds of oils and crap at about 1,000-degree temperature for 4 hours. I mean, that's what you're eating. It's going to fill you up, but has it helped you? It's going to screw up your pancreas. It's going to screw up your gut. It's going to screw up your HCl, getting back to HCl. It's going to lead to leaky gut, to where your body now goes into an autoimmune response. There's so many different problems that can stem from that. I like the fact that Jane is doing this research for you guys. I think more people should do that. They should do that. I wish more people would spend more time researching their health and at least some things about their health as opposed to, planning out their vacation to the Bahamas. So, it's good that your wife is doing that. However, you got to be a little bit careful because there's a lot of weird things out there that are, less than scrupulous, you might say, being people just trying to take advantage to get your money.
Yeah.
So they don't know what the hell they're talking about. You can go to some guy on YouTube or whatever, some dude that ate just baked beans for a whole month and lost weight. Well, some people might believe that. But that's not going to work for most people. It's just not.
Right.
Find a person out there who's a credible person who can work with you, who can develop a relationship with you. You trust him or her, and they trust each other, vice versa. That's how you do it, if you want to take it to that level. Other than that, if you don't want to take it to that level, get off the processed junk, start eating better organic foods, cut down your portion size, and, consume good, clean water. That's another one that's on there. And you're golden, man. I mean, that's what I think. Now, getting beyond that, okay, now that you start talking about, okay, how much meat you should eat, how much should be plant-based or animal-based or whatever, how many bowel movements are you having per day? That's another one right there. So, the average person probably only has one bowel movement every 3 or 4 days.
What? Wow, I am well above average.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, I know you are, Chris. Yes, I know that.
He's full of
but that's bad. Hey, look, if you're not taking a poop at least once or twice a day, something's not right on average. Okay? So the food you're eating, I mean, you know how they tell animals the health of an animal? By their poop.
By their scat.
By their poop, man. That's how you tell. So, I don't want to get too graphic here, but that's how you do it. If your poop ain't nice, brown, and round, and cylindrically shaped, you're not healthy.
Nice, brown, round, and cylindrically shaped. You heard it here, folks. That's what you want your poop to look like.
Exactly right. It should be almond colored. And if it's not, if it's real dark, if it's real light, if it's watery, if you can see food in your stool, you got some major problems going on.
You stink, and I don't like you.
What's that, Paul?
Oh, my. Sorry, he got a little corny. Hey, we're talking poop.
Hey, well, you know what? This is what the show is all about, man. I tell like it is, Chris.
Hey, it's real talk. I appreciate it. I know the listeners do. So what if somebody wants to work with you, whether it be, the total package, or they just want to talk to you about working out, or they really want to get in and do lab work, even your assessments apparently aren't one size fits all, which is great. How can they learn more? How do they get in touch with you?
Well, I have different layers to my program. If you just want a one-time evaluation, that's kind of what you did, a one-time eval, I can do that for you and give you some recommendations. If you want to go more long-term sessions with me where we do some training together, I take a look at your nutrition, I take a look at your blood work, we make some nutritional and some exercise and some activity plans and programs for you. I can take it to that level. If you want me just to strictly just do nutrition only and nothing else, I can take it to that level. It all depends what you want. The best way to contact me, I won't give any price over the internet here, over the radio, but
Sure.
Contact me, because depending upon what you want is going to vary the investment that you make. So contact me at 816-405-7703. Email is rwpsports@yahoo.com.
All right. Well, hey, Roberto, thank you once again. It's always fun to do this with you. I learn a lot, sometimes about poop, sometimes about other things, but all of it helps. So folks, if you're interested, seriously, reach out to Roberto. He can change your life. And we will talk to you next time on the Health Detective Podcast.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. You can contact Roberto at 816-405-7703 or by email at rwpsports@yahoo.com with any comment or question you may have. Join us next time for the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. The Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker has been a KCTK production, produced by Roberto Parker, Chris Whiting, and Paul Lavoda. All rights reserved. For more information and content, email us at kctkradio@gmail.com.